Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back and welcome to the review of the Leho LHUT-MM Tenor Ukulele. So this thing is made out of all mahogany with a walnut fretboard, walnut bridge, Graphtec new bone saddle and nut, fully reversible by the way. We'll get to this. We have an Archback, which we'll talk about, sealed tuners as well. It has what's called an open pore finish on it, or micron finish. So there's very little finish on this thing, just enough to protect the wood. So it has kind of like a satiny look to it. It's not glossy, and it allows the wood to be able to breathe and move and resonate properly by having such a thin finish on there, but it's also protecting the instrument at the same time, because you definitely don't want to go with zero protection, because the dirt from your fingers, your arms, whatever, would just get into that wood and just gross it right out. So there is a micron finish on here, so you can easily just wipe it down, clean the guitar, or in this case ukulele, without any problems. The tuners that are on here are much like your regular guitar tuners in that they attach with a nut and a washer, and of course there are screws on the back to also hold their angle properly. And you do need to adjust these nuts from time to time, because if you do pick up a buzzing sound, it may not be that you're fretting your note or your chord incorrectly. It may just be that the nuts have worn loose, which they do because wood shrinks and expands all the time with heat and humidity. And so with the shrinking and expanding, of course, these will either self-tighten with expansion, or they slack off when the wood gets drier. So you really do have to humidify your room or your house properly at the right humidity levels for the instruments in order to make sure they're properly humidified so that the wood stays as stable as possible. Okay. Now, being that these things have nylon strings on them, as all ukes do, including your ukulele and classical guitars even, they do take a long time for the strings to actually settle in before they hold really good stable tuning. These are breaking in more and more because I'm playing this thing an awful lot. These are the original factory strings, which normally I would switch out, but in the case of these, they're nylon and they're already in really great shape, so Leho actually does put some decent strings on their instruments. I do have a spare set in case I break a string, which can happen, of course, because these are under a lot of tension, okay? Although it doesn't feel like that when you're fretting your notes or chords, they are actually under a lot of tension, so they can actually snap eventually, right? So it never hurts to have a spare set of strings on hand to swap your strings. So this was purchased as a right-handed model. I have converted it to left-handed. So at the store, so I can also keep my warranty intact, I had them install the strap pins. Not that they don't trust me to do it. I could have done it myself and they would still allow me to keep my warranty. But I was a little nervous because I've never had to pre-drill into celluloid before and then into the wood. So I figured, you know what? Better safe than sorry. Let them do it. So I had them actually install them for me, and I went with gold because it matches the mahogany wood better than silver wood. And of course, I need some gold tuners now. I have to look for some new tuners. Gives me ideas. Anyways, so this was gotten from Long McQuaid, obviously, in North Bay in Canada. They have an entire chain of stores, also online website where you can order from. What you don't find on their website or in store, just ask them about, and they can more than likely get it in if they can. I've bought in custom parts that they normally would never carry in stock or on the website. They've been able to get it from their suppliers for me, so not a big deal. So never worry about it. Just, if they absolutely can't get what you need, well, then that's different. But anyways, for a $120 instrument, this thing is actually quite fantastic. Now, let's talk about the Archback on this thing. But before that, the celluloid binding is fake tortoiseshell. Looks good, top, bottom, and even in the sound hole they have it, which is really nice because that's a lot of tedious work to lay that stuff in there. I've actually seen it being done, and it's like, oh man, I would hate to be the person to have to put those little bits and pieces in there. That would be such a tedious thing, and you don't get room for mistakes. But anyway, so very nice binding on the body, in and there. The fretboard is not a bound fretboard, although it kind of looks like it is, but it really isn't. No protruding fret ends, so very well done for the fretwork. Amazing job. For 120 bucks, I mean, I was not expecting the kind of quality. But then again, you know, I did have a baritone uke from Leho, also fantastic, no fret sprout, no problems, fantastic instrument. You know, I just had given up on uke. So if you want to know why I'm back into uke, do check out my new ukulele day with a twist video to get those details. So let's get on with the rest of this. So the Archback. A lot of people don't understand what an Archback is about. Couple of things. An Archback, first of all, means that they can save a lot of weight and materials, time, labor, by not requiring any framing on the bottom of the instrument. So this Archback design adds a lot of strength and rigidity, okay, or rigidity. But it also helps with the sound. It gives it a more fuller sound, more louder output as well, as opposed to a flat back, which would be not as loud even in the same body dimensions. This adds volume, but it also adds bass, which is kind of important when you only got 4 strings. You need some bass there. But you also need smoother mids and treble range too. You don't want things too tinny. And an Archback design also helps accomplish smoothing out the EQing of the instrument, so it's much more smoother, much more fuller and richer sounding. So that's a big, huge benefit to an Archback. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm not fussy either way. Doesn't matter to me, but I do like the Archback design. I have an Archback design actually on my Taylor 114 CE, so no framing down below on it because, again, Archback's not required. And that makes for the instrument being a much louder instrument than the flatback. And like I said, fuller, richer sound, more bass response, better mids and trebles smoothed out, and of course, louder in the volume sense of getting more sound output. And when you're playing an instrument, especially with strings, you want to be able to play it so that you can sing along with it without drowning out the instrument too, right? So it's very important to have some volume range there. And in something this small, all the help the better, okay? So, but it is a very nice playing instrument. It is stabilizing. I flipped to the strings like I said. Did not have to recut the nut. So if you are a left-handed player primarily like I am, I play left and right-handed guitar. But for the uke thing, like I said, I am going to be teaching a 3-year-old, if you check out that video, and her dad. And I need to be able to play properly right away. And so I've chosen to go with the left-handed route because I'm normally a left-handed guitar player primarily anyways. And I do much better at it than I do it right-handed. So it's like I need all the advantages I can get here. So I just flip the strings, and that's all you need to do. So that opens you lefty players up to literally thousands and thousands of options. In fact, you get all the toys because you can get left-handed versions specific because they will have a cutaway body in them, and that looks proper if it's a proper left-handed version. Or you can get this body style or the semi-triangle or pineapple style or A style, whatever. You can convert these things and it still looks natural, right, for a left-handed player. Like I said, no having to recut the nut. For the strings, everything goes perfectly fine and stays stable. No intonation to worry about. It's a straight across system as it is on all ukuleles that I've seen, as well as all classical guitars that I've seen and personally played. And I have played classical guitar for many years, and I really like it. I've been kind of thinking about getting back into it. I've been looking at some cheaper classicals, but I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe I better spend $500 instead of $150 or $200. You know, because I want something that actually is better quality. So, anyways, playing this thing though, it's not as hard as you may think. Now, if you are already a guitar player, you will have a very easy transition into it, especially if you're ever used to using a capo on the 5th fret or doing bar chords. You're not bar chording anymore, so you're kind of forgetting about this finger for that because you don't need to bar chord, but you will have some chords that are going to be requiring to be barred, like the C minor, for example, is a 1-finger bar chord. Okay, and of course you have a D chord, which is in the A formation. Your E chord is also an A formation with a drop down onto the bottom string of the 2nd fret. And And there's a few other chords that are going to definitely be interesting. C major 7, of course, or sorry, G major 7, I believe it is, according to this sheet, if I'm reading it right, would actually be here. And then, of course, you have C, so C major 7, C, C7, A, F. The D formation is actually a G chord. So if you ever put a capo on the 5th fret of a guitar, just use the 4 bottom strings, you have a ukulele. If you use all 6, you're basically a gitalele on the 5th fret. Now you can re-get your tuning to the same as a baritone uke on this thing, which I experimented with before doing this video. But your standard tuning on ukuleles, except for the baritone, so tenor, concert, soprano, and what do they call that? Sus-soprano or whatever it is, the really teeny-weeny soprano one. Anyways, it's G, C, E a day is the tuning standard. But if you take a capo, and I think I'm going to need a better capo than this one, but if you count up your frets in your brain, everything restarts over at the 12th fret on a guitar, right? So this is sort of the same idea. So if you count, this would be 5th fret open, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we actually go to the 7th fret on the ukulele, and we get the same tuning happening as you would on a baritone, but a little higher pitched, obviously. Okay, so then you could do a regular D chord, and it's actually a normal D. Okay, you can do your F, which is normal F. And if you could squeeze your fingers in there the right way, you could actually get an A chord out of this, which is a little different. But you could also bar it. You could do A minor. So you can do a few chords that way. And of course your bluesy stuff. But only on those 2 strings for this case. But you can also jump down here. Doesn't quite sound right though. So it's kind of weird. You can play some bluesy stuff on these two strings. A lot of fun. Anyways, so overall build quality, really nice. Mahogany, though an exotic wood, not a very expensive wood either, and extremely lightweight. Even a 3-year-old can easily handle this thing, no problems. And if you're an adult, of course, you can definitely handle this thing. One thing I would like to give some advice on, though, is when you are buying an ukulele, no matter how old the person is, or your finger size, length, diameters, make sure that you get an ukulele where you can actually do some of your main chords that are going to be the hardest ones, because if you can do those, you can do any of them. And what I mean by that is the D chord is in an A formation, so it takes up your pinky and this finger, and that's your D chord. Okay, you got to make sure you can squish all your fingers in there. It's a tight squeeze. And then your E chord is keeping the same formation, but dropping this finger down on the bottom string of the 2nd fret. So if you can do those competently without any difficulty, or very little difficulty in fact, then that's the right size for you. Okay, in my case, I have to be tenor because the size and diameter of my fingers, even though I do have some long fingers, but they're not super long, but I do have some diameter to them. I had to go with the tenor because I could not do this on a concert uke. It was not going to happen. So when you go, baritone is longer, but baritone is also different tuning. It's the same as a guitar. But for standard uke with standard tuning, G, C, E, and A, you have tenor, which is your longest. Then you would go a little shorter down to the concert. And then, of course, soprano and sus-soprano. Your fret spacing, which each length actually has to change. So things become tighter in the smaller the ukulele you go with. So very important to make sure that whoever the person is that you're buying it for will be able to actually do this. So if you're thinking about it as a gift even for your kid for Christmas or whatever, you don't have to tell the kids that they're going to actually get it or not, but take them into the music store and make sure that they can actually do these chords. The salesperson will help you out to actually make sure that your child can do this, right? Because if not, then you've bought the wrong size, and this is going to go very much against the person. Better to have a little bit of extra room than not enough room, which is a big thing, right? So anyways, so that's what I got on that. But overall, is it worth the $120? Yes. Is it good quality? Is it well built? Finishes on it? Everything? Yes, it's great. It's a fantastic little machine. I really like it. I'm not going to give you a 5-star rating. I'm not even going to give you 4 3/4 on this. But I am going to give you a real good, honest, and superior 4.5 out of 5. I think it deserves that, okay? It is not perfect by any means, that's for sure. Nothing ever is perfect, okay? As far as anything else that I could really ding on this thing, I really don't see any baddies other than the fact of the lack of the block. There's actually no block back here. Now, there are a lot of ukuleles out there that will have a pin here but no pin here because you would tie your strap up here, right? They would have a block in them. This had no block allowance, and that's something that even for a $120 instrument should have that block in there in case somebody wanted to put strap pins in, because here we're going through a piece of the celluloid binding and then into whatever wood there is behind that for thickness to keep that screw steady. So we were warned that it could loosen over time. Eventually it may even strip, okay? However, if it does strip, we could add a block in, but that would have to be done by a professional. I could do it myself because I know how. So if I do ever end up with a problem, it's something that I would probably say, well, it's not a warranty issue per se to have that problem fixed because from the factory it wasn't done. So I would probably myself just go ahead and do it myself. And I know what I would need to do for the proper material for wood, the right thickness and widths, of course, in order to accomplish that. And I should be able to get my mitts in there in order to do that. We'll find out. Maybe I might have to get somebody with some very small hands. I don't know. So I may end up taking it into a pro to get done after all. Who knows? Depends. If I put my hand down the hole to get in there to reach with the block, then I'll do it myself. If not, pro. But otherwise, it is holding together really well, so I'm quite happy with that. The neck and the heel joint, of course, is 2 pieces in here, which is not a big deal. That's common on any instrument. I do like the finish, though. I do like the woods for choice. Not that I'm a tone wood person per se. There is a little bit of tone wood in effect, of course, but not a whole lot. I wish they would have finished, and this is where another half mark comes in. Being that this is walnut, it would have been nice to see them put a finish on the walnut as well. Walnut, it needs to be oiled, okay? Realistically, it should be oiled. But they could have gone with a finish, because I have actually varathaned walnut, and I've never once ever had a stability issue with varathane against walnut. So they should have done some sort of a protection that way, but they didn't, and that's okay. You can use a little bit of lemon oil, which I would recommend Dunlop 65. And so when you change your strings, just make sure to oil just the walnut, because I mean you're not going to do anything here. It's a finish, so it's not going to soak in. If you spill a little bit on you, can just wipe it off, which is not a big deal. But I would get this really good in here because if walnut does dry out too much, it will crack. That is one thing about walnut. It's very notorious like maple. It's something that will crack if it's too dry. Maple is generally protected with a varathane, so they should have done that with this, but they didn't. I don't know why, but you can actually oil the fretboard on this as well as the bridge, so that's not a problem. And that you only have to do once a year, so it's not a major thing. But I do like their choices because the walnut is a very nice wood. I like the smell of walnut too. It's a really nice odor that comes from walnut. But either way, we're at 4.5 out of 5. I like the fact they went through all that extra time and effort to put in the binding in here and the sound hole as well. It gives it a lot of nice style, you know, so that's pretty cool. The tuner's good quality. Stability is getting better and better. It takes a while for nylon strings, like quite a while before they stay stable, so don't panic if you're retuning a lot in the beginning. It's not the fact that there's a problem with the strings, it's that they're nylon and they do take quite a number of tunings because you're stretching all that extra material here, which needs to be a fair amount on the posts, you know, in comparison. So there is a fair amount of material that's going to continually pull and stretch at this end as well as the entire length anyway, so it will take you a while. This thing is almost, I wouldn't say perfectly stable because nothing is, but it's extremely stable that I can play a lot of songs now, even with a guitar pick being somewhat aggressive and not really affecting my tuning very much. So I'm still in, I'm a little actually high there. And in answer to another question that may pop up, if you tune up a little higher in pitch, is that really going to help your cause? No, it's not going to make it stretch any sooner. You've got to tune to pitch in order to play properly. But so we've now retuned this, so let's play a little bit. Get my fingers in there right. Anyways, let's check it. Good, good. So, good. So we're going to be able to play a number of songs now before we have to worry about checking our tuning. But if you're worried about it, check your tuning after every couple of songs, or if you notice something that just isn't sounding right, check your tuning, because if the tuning's in, then it's just you. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with this thing, so do check them out at Long McQuaid. Link will be in the video description below for this one, but do check out all their ukuleles and brands they have available, price ranges and so on. Also, you'll notice this thing has little shells on the bottom. It's kind of cool. I like it. It's a fun instrument. Anyways, if you have any questions, comments, you know where to put them down below, and I'll do the best I can to answer your questions, etc. You know, let me know if you've had experience with Leho ukes, no matter what they were for, you know, tenor, concert, what have you. Let me know what your experiences have been with the company, with their products. I've had a Leho baritone before, had no problems with it. This one here, again, it's fantastic. It's well made. I see no issues with this that I can ding it on. As far as fit, finish, or any of that goes, it is just fantastic. Other than, like I said, they should have put a block in here, which loses a bit of brownie points, and it's not perfect. But nothing ever is anyways. But this is one thing they do need to change, is to either add the block in or add the block and the pin from the factory, and then make it an option if the user wants a pin here or just a strap. Because not everybody likes their pin on the heel. I prefer it on the heel because it balances out the guitar better, and it gives me more room with my strap, and it's not hard on the instrument either like it is with tying a thing up here, okay, which can cause other things. But anyways, that's a whole other video. See you later. Thanks again. Ciao.